Back again for another episode of the Football Fun Factory podcast, where this week we are going to be discussing the very interesting topic of ball hogging.
Ooh.
James, when you played, were you a ball hog?
Absolutely not.
No?
No.
I'm surprised at that. I've seen your rainbow flicks. I thought you might...
Yeah, no, just rainbow flick it and then pass it to someone
pass
else.
it on. Nice. What about you, Chad? I can imagine you were a massive ball hog.
Massive ball hog. Loved having the ball. Never pass it. School playground. My team would always win, but my teammates couldn't stand being on the same team because they'd never get a kick of the ball. But I absolutely loved dribbling with the ball, running with the ball, and I'd never want to pass it, never want to give it up.
Cool. Well, I'm interested to hear you fight your corner in Johnny's court.
Very good.
I think that's
Johnny's court.
I'm pretty sure everyone's calling it that these days.
Yeah.
So let's get right to it and put this subject on trial. For anyone listening on audio, I would encourage you to head over to our YouTube page because I look absolutely ridiculous in this judge's wig and gown. But we're here in Johnny's Judge Court to discuss ball hogging. I'm going to give you guys a statement each, and you have to read your statement. And no matter what it says, you have to fight the corner of that statement to the death. JC, can you read your statement first?
Yeah, absolutely. Coaches should encourage children to ball hog. This is the best and quickest way for children to develop. The best players shouldn't pass to teammates that aren't as good as them.
Interesting. Chaddy, can you read yours, please?
Yes. Coaches should do all that they can to discourage ball hogging. It's ruining the enjoyment and stunting the development of others and the ball hoggers themselves.
Oh, very interesting.
It's not what you said at the start, Chad.
I'm just reading.
No, that is your statement that you need to fight to the corners of the earth.
I believe in it, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Thank God for that.
It's just to change your opinion.
Yeah. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
James, can you please delve into a little bit deeper? And Chaddy,
Sure.
I'd like you to put James to the stand and question him.
Very, very few children make it through an academy. I think 1% of academy players, 0.012% of all children that play football in the UK go on to become a professional footballer. I know from last week's episode, Judge Johnny, you like stats.
I do like
so
stats.
I thought I'd just throw that in there.
Here we go again.
Big tick.
But with so few players that are making it through, then why should the best player pass to the others? Because they've got no chance of making it. The best player should keep hold of the ball, get as many touches as they can. We also know they need 10,000 hours of practice and they need as many touches as they can possibly get. So by offloading the ball to inferior teammates who are just not ever going to be a professional footballer, it would be a ludicrous thing to do, and they should hog that ball as much as possible.
But is that not stunting their growth? Obviously, as they go up the levels, they're probably not going to be able to dribble around everyone like they do, and not learning how to do that at the youngest ages. Is that not going to be a problem for them as they sort of go up to different ability levels?
No, it won't, no.
Fantastic. Just like to make a point of the one-word answer there.
That was just a pause.
Sustained.
That was just
Overruled.
That was just a pause.
Overruled.
Which one? Which one?
All of them. James, continue.
That's just a pause. That's just dramatic.
Okay, carry
pause.
on.
Absolutely not. The reason being
Very
that they will be able to continue to dribble around players because they've had years and years of practice of it. They're from 5, 6, 7, 8 years old that have been dribbling around players. Of course, as they get older, they'll start to make decisions. If there's someone in a better position or a goal scoring opportunity, they'll offload the ball to someone. But being a ball hog, certainly at the early years, is absolutely key to refining those dribbling skills that we lack so much in this country.
But surely that's the time when you do learn and the lessons stick at those youngest ages, where you get in a position you might beat 2 or 3 players and then pass the ball on to someone in a better position. Because I'd say whatever level you play at, it's always best to pass to someone that's in a better position after you've had a little dribble or if you've got the ball at your feet.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I think that making mistakes is a key part of development, and if you're always offloading the ball and giving it to someone else rather than maybe getting tackled, that tackle is actually the next step towards being able to beat the player the next time. So I think it's really important to try and fail at times, and that failure will result in better dribbling skills and more well-rounded football players.
Interesting take. Sorry, Luke, I know you have... Go on then, you can have one more question because your face looks so sad.
Make it a good one.
So you mentioned there, like, no one makes it 0.1%, whatever it may be. Say it every week. Johnny likes to
It'll be about fun.
Boring. Exactly. So you're saying, like, forget about the other kids. It's all about this one dribbler, runs with the ball all the time. To heck with the other kids. They're just there. So explain yourself.
No, I think they should do the same. I think they should practice ball hog, dribble around players, and they should do exactly the same. And that if everyone does that, then everyone will have a great time.
Oh, interesting. Probably wish you didn't ask that last question after that brilliant answer. Well played, James. Luke, can you please remind us of your statement? And James, can you please put Luke on stand?
Coaches should do all that they can to discourage ball hogging. It's ruining the enjoyment and stunting the development of others and the ball hoggers themselves. Nobody should be running with a ball, dribbling with a ball. You should pass it immediately. That's how the game's going. Control pass, trying to find your way in. We don't need dribblers. We don't need people hogging the ball. It ruins the enjoyment for others. We just want everyone to have fun, enjoy the game, and all get an equal turn on the ball.
Interesting views.
Thank you.
Luke, who would you say are the top 3 players in the world?
Top 3 now playing the game today. Yeah. I would say they are... You put me on the spot here. Obviously, Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar.
And of those 3 players...
Mbappe. Neymar is good, though.
Of those 3 players, would you say that they are good dribblers of the ball?
Yeah.
And do you think that in their time developing their skills as a young player, they may have been a ball hog?
I can't answer that question. I wouldn't know.
So I've seen quite a lot of videos of those young players coming through academies, dribbling around everyone else. And I think that personally has been a big part of their development, being able to hog the ball, get loads of touches. It may feel unfair on the other children, but that's
I'm sorry, I'm not having that question. You can't provide the appropriate evidence in the court of these videos, so that question is sustained. Carry on.
Very good.
Yeah, thanks. I'm absolutely buzzing off myself.
I'd like to turn our attention to Exhibit A.
I've thrown a cat amongst the pigeons here.
There's a massive cat. He's thrown me.
So no videos to back up your evidence.
Yeah.
So please continue your point of these players.
So all those players are very good dribblers of the ball, and they will have refined their skills, no doubt, by dribbling the ball lots, because that's how you get better at something. And therefore, I think that in itself tells us that being a ball hog is absolutely the way to go.
I think it's learning when to dribble. I mean, you look at Lionel Messi, absolute genius, fantastic dribbler of the ball, manipulates out of situations, but also just as good as playing off 1 touch, 2 touch, and understanding that. I think by taking away the ball hoggers, we get more players that can pass the ball, stay on the ball. We've always said in this country, the England national team, that we're starved of possession. We're a sort of direct team. We sort of go longer because we haven't got the technical ability of players that can stay on the ball. By stopping the ball hogging, we stay on the ball, we win the World Cup.
One question that I've got,
You're the judge.
The judge can do whatever he wants. Facts. My question, Luke, you mentioned before we went into the courtroom today, which is the same room that we're sat in throughout the whole of the podcast. You said that you were a ball hog when you were younger. Do you think if you weren't a ball hog, you would have made it to the dizzy heights of playing for Manchester United?
Would have gone higher if I didn't ball hog. Wait, I'm racked with guilt still to this day that I was a ball hog and I took away some of the enjoyment of my teammates because I'd just dribble the ball, run it all the time. I can't tell you how upset that makes me feel.
Well, I don't know about anyone else, but that has brought a tear to my eye.
This is the most emotional episode of the podcast so far.
Has anyone got any tissues? Gosh. Well, 2 fantastic points, 2 fantastic arguments, but just for the sheer emotion that captured the jury today, I cannot look beyond Luke Chadwick.
I know, it's Johnny, it's fine. Give it to James.
No,
again, it's fine.
Luke is today's winner within the court. And going to mix things up a little bit. We always hand out a prize at the
So
end.
the one time I do win, there's no...
I haven't finished.
Okay, sorry.
I'm going to mix it up a little bit today, and obviously at the end of each court session, we hand out a prize. Today's prize is my gown. Chaddy, congratulations, mate. Please put the gown on and show your gratitude.
It's not a gown.
It's been a while.
Oh, sorry, the hat.
weird.
Sorry, the hat.
Oh, thank you very much.
Very good. I'd like you to wear that for the remainder of the podcast.
No, I'm not going to wear it for the remainder of the podcast.
Cool, let's find out what everyone really thinks. Great discussion, guys. Chaddy, you said at the start you're a ball hog. You obviously then had to fight your corner in my courtroom. Say you didn't want ball hogging as part of the game. What do you actually think, mate?
No, I think children should be play free. Some children are good at different aspects. I think if you're good at dribbling with the ball, then you should be encouraged to dribble the ball, run with the ball, try and beat players. I think it is always learning the situation where the better option is to pass the ball off, but that's the learning. I think every child should play how they enjoy playing the game.
What do you think when it affects the other children within the group, though? So that one child may love dribbling with the ball, staying on the ball, but then other children in the team might then get frustrated with them because they're in a better position in front of the goal for a little tap in, and they then hog it and lose the ball.
And I think that is then the education. That's the coach's responsibility to coach that child. Obviously, if they're brilliant at that, they get enjoy doing it, but then recognising there's 3 players around me now. We've got 4 players completely free over there. I'm going to pass the ball to them. And I think that is development, isn't it? It's trial and error. That's how everyone improves whatever they're doing. So it's the coach and everyone involved to help develop that child and learn to pass the ball when the better option is to pass the ball.
James, I've got a 2-part question for you.
Sure.
One from the topic around, do you think ball hogging should be encouraged? And 2, how can a coach either encourage it or discourage it within their sessions?
So I remember as an academy coach at Cambridge, I remember distinctly experiencing academy philosophy for the first time when we went to one of your old clubs, MK Dons. And we went to we were in the dome at MK Dons, and we got there, and every time one of their young academy players, their philosophy may have changed over the years, but this is quite a number of years ago, got the ball, they would just run with it until they lost it. And I found it really interesting because the way that we were coaching and I was coaching at the time was quite different to that. And I looked at their young team and players and I thought, wow, there's some really talented players here and they're exceptional at dribbling. And it made me think, maybe they're onto something here, and maybe this is a really good philosophy for an academy to have, particularly for young players. Second part of the question, was it about encouraging?
Yeah, so just obviously you've seen the benefits then of teams encouraging ball hogging, like you say, Milton Keynes, when you went there and you saw their team play, loads of talented players on show. As a coach, if you're encouraging that, I guess it's quite easy because you allow that within your sessions. From your experience, have you ever, as you say, once again, during your time at Cambridge, it was more around maybe being an all-rounded player. How would you try and discourage, I guess, a ball hog within your sessions? And would you?
Discourage, I would when it's not the right time or place. So I think if there's a child that gets the ball and is capable of running past 3 players and bang it in the top corner, I wouldn't discourage that at all, because that's great and they should experience that moment, and you shouldn't neglect them of that moment if they're able to do it, especially on a consistent basis. But the chances are that no child is on such a completely different level to the rest of them, and if they are, there's probably a question to be asked whether they should be playing up or down, and there's another topic from one of our other podcasts. But if there will be circumstances where they do that, they have that success, they get that adrenaline rush, and then the next time they get the ball, they try and do the same thing again and they lose it. And there's probably differences between that in terms of what they did technically or the situation, i.e. a covering defender, that may be the reason why they got tackled the second time around. So you're starting to recognise when those things happen and just point them out. I think that's the simplest thing about coaching, is sometimes it's just seeing what happens, standing on the sideline and pointing out the first time you did it, it was great because you were isolated, you had one-to-one, you were loads of space, opportunity to take on the player. The second time you were crowded out, and that's why you lost the ball.
Yeah, there's a couple of really interesting things I want to sort of delve a bit deeper into. I guess the first one, I'm really personally unsure whether ball hogging is good or not. And I think it's when you generalise it and you say, yeah, we want to encourage children to ball hog, then I think there are children that don't benefit from that in the team. So there might be the one child that's encouraged to ball hog and all the rest then don't get loads of touches, and that's not great for them, and they then get frustrated, and that then can have an adverse effect on the ball hog as such. When you then look at philosophies in academies, Milton MK Dons, like Dele Alli was one of the young players that I saw growing up as I was coaching and stuff, and you'd see him in the older age groups, and he was encouraged to stay on the ball loads, and that's what developed him into the player that he became when he was at Spurs and everything else. So I see the benefit then of encouraging that. If it's then a whole club's philosophy, what I then struggle to get my head round is for all the other players that I guess don't benefit from that, because it takes 11 players to make up a team, and if everyone's encouraged to dribble it, then maybe that's not the right philosophy. So I'm almost a little bit puzzled in my head as to whether we should encourage it or not.
I think that's the skill of a coach, isn't it? For me, coaching is about doing the right things at the right time for the right children and tailoring the experience for them.
Yep.
For me, an academy philosophy where every child is encouraged to dribble every single time they get the ball isn't right, because for the centre half who gets the ball, who dribbles and gets caught in possession and the other team score, probably not the right thing to be doing. And actually, for a central midfield player that is a certain type of player, actually offloading the ball and giving it to another type of player out wide in space is completely different. So
I think that's closer aligned to my beliefs and my philosophy as a coach. I'm very much for individual development plans for a child within a group session, and trying to tailoring the session for an individual to meet their needs to help them develop, because everyone's different and everyone's journey will be different and everyone's skill set is different, both physically, technically, tactically, socially. So you've got to try and, as a coach, I think, get the best out of each individual.
What does that mean for grassroots, though? So we're talking a lot about academies, aren't we? But what does that mean for a grassroots team? If you've got one player, one child that's, she's dribbling around the whole team and the rest of the child aren't getting a touch, do you think that should be stopped? Do you think the coach should make an intervention there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in general, I think the term ball hog is quite a negative sort of, where, what you talk about there, I've been talking about sort of academy football and that, and you recognise the strengths of certain individuals. That's why they've gone in there, and you want to really go play to their super strengths and give them the opportunity to express themselves. For a lot of children, that is dribbling with a ball, running with a ball. I think in grassroots football, the kids don't know what they're going into, do they, when they start playing at 5-6 years old? They're all just chasing around the ball, and I think that's when you got the opportunity. That's their early experiences, and I don't think sort of ball hogging is that much of an issue from what I see and sort of speak to a lot of people within it. I think there's people that can run with the ball really well, and I think if you've got someone that can dribble round everyone and score a goal, they should be encouraged to do that, because they've obviously got a fantastic talent to be able to do that, and that talent would of course be recognised, and they'd probably go on to play at a higher level and go up from grassroots, and then if they can still do it, then fantastic. And as they keep going up the levels, that's probably going to get to a point where it's got to stop, so you've got to learn to do other things as well as do that. But I think in terms of, I remember as a kid being called a ball hog a lot, and I was thinking, I don't know, is that a negative thing? Because I think I'm absolutely brilliant. I can run past everyone and score a goal, and that's what the game's about, isn't it? Scoring goals and doing that. So it is a tricky one, but I think we should come away from that ball hogger or ball hog, the comment that we started.
Yes, it's an interesting take, and I think we can't come away from ball hogging because that's what we're talking about. But I think as a term, you are right. It is a negative and does have negative connotations to it. I guess.
I think as a coach, you always, what everyone would say, you do fantastic coach, both fantastic coaches. You want the kids to express themselves. I would say you'd want that at every single session that you put on. You want the children to express themselves, and for a lot of them children, expressing themselves is seeing what Mbappe, Messi, Ronaldo do when they're dribbling with a ball, and that's them expressing themselves. And I don't think we should ever take that away from any
and I agree with that. I think we should encourage children to express themselves, to be themselves, to stay on the ball if that's what they like doing and want to do. Encourage those that maybe get rid of the ball too quickly to stay on it and dribble on it, because I think that is a huge part of the game and really helps the children develop. There will be, and I get a lot of questions sent to me on social media around, there's a child in my team that doesn't pass. There's a child in my team that wants to take every single set piece, throw in, and even if their teammate's on the line, that they can set him in and it's the right decision, and he just hogs the ball, she hogs the ball. How do you coach that? What would you do in that scenario?
I would try to incentivize them to do things other than score the goal themselves. So, for example, it's almost like, right, today you're going to, for every goal you score, that's a goal. Mm-hmm. For every assist you get, that's 2 goals. And we're going to see how many you get at the end of the today. Now, whether that child then decides to go, I don't care, I'm just going to kick it in the back of the net because that's what I want to do. Just depends on their mentality and their personality. But I think you can find ways to encourage children and really celebrate. If it's not that, maybe just celebrating when you dribbled past those 2 players and crossed it in the box and your teammate scored. That was my highlight of the game. That was brilliant. That was a great decision.
Yep.
I think that should be celebrated. Like what you described there. I mean, what a young child that is, that wants to take responsibility, that wants to take all the set plays, wants to take all the throw-ins and everything. Like you say, encouraging of doing other things and sort of setting goals up being as important today as scoring a goal. But I think you don't want to take away anything that child is becoming, because that sounds like an incredible child.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's then just when they are then negatively impacting others within the group and their experience, or they are then like not developing because they're making lots of wrong decisions, because if they're a striker on a pitch and they want to take a goal kick, it's then like, I know that's a very extreme example, but I think there are scenarios like that where they're actually like, it's not right for that child.
It's when you get away with it. So I remember when players came into an academy, when they progressed from grassroots to an academy quite quickly.
Yep.
And if they came out of grassroots where they could dribble around everyone, have a loose touch and still retain possession, then they come into an academy and try to do that and they get tackled. It's really frustrating. It's a big shift and a massive learning curve for them.
Yep.
So I've seen that play out a number of times, particularly in really young players. So I think it's then developing them as a child and as a player at an age group within a team, I think is the most important thing. And the coach's job is to recognise when they can do it. And naturally, as you get older, you're going to have to learn to pass the ball more, because you can't just dribble around everyone and score.
Yeah, and I think like it all links into like everything that the Football Fun Factory is about, which life skills are more important than football skills. Yeah. That's just a fact, isn't it? And sort of that sharing, being kind to your teammates. I think that is a brilliant way of sort of encouraging that with those children that want to dribble and run with the ball all the time.
Yeah, so I think just to sort of round up before we get to everyone's favourite part of the podcast.
What's that?
We'll find out in a minute, Chad. I think for me, and obviously taking on board all the things that you said, guys, I think, look, we want to try and encourage children to be themselves, to express themselves, to stay on the ball, and we never want to stamp that out of the game and out of a child's enjoyment within their sessions. There will still be examples then when children ball hog and it's then negatively impacting others within the groups. I think you made a couple of brilliant points of how you coaches listening to this podcast can try and encourage children to share the ball. So point scoring system, I always think, is one of the best ways. If you incentivise with more points, I'm personally against the only play off 2 touch, only play off 3 touch, because then you do really restrict that child and stop them from expressing themselves. So I think if you can incentivise them by getting extra points if they pass and if they get an assist and they try and share with their teammates, I think it's a great idea. And then also what you both said just around really celebrating those life skills, the sharing, the assists, those things that go from life and football and put together. So hopefully this discussion has added some value to any coaches listening and parents listening as well. But now we're going to go to the favourite part of everyone's podcast. Hold on. Flip reverse that. The podcastist bit of everyone's favourite. Something like that, guys. We're going to go to Chaddy's questions. Quick fire. Let's go.
So,
Quick fire questions for Luke Chadwick. James, what's your quick fire question, mate?
The best centre-back that you played with?
Quick fire.
You've got to pre-warn me the questions then. Best centre-back ever played with, I would say, would have to be Jaap Stam. When I was at Manchester United, he was an absolute beast of a man. So strong, so quick, so hard to get past in training, and good on the ball, but real sort of the way that he set the tone as a centre-back was fantastic. Was lucky enough to train with Rio Ferdinand a couple of times before I left before I left Man United, when he signed there, and he was like an absolute Rolls Royce as well. Didn't get the opportunity to play with him, but he was like on another level. Nice.
Chaddy, you've obviously worked under some pretty big names and big managers, but who was the best coach that you played under? So not necessarily like Sir Alex, I know, as a manager, but as an actual coach, and why were they so good?
Yeah, good question. I got asked this question on TikTok a couple of weeks ago and answered it. So I'm lucky enough to play under obviously brilliant managers, but as coaches, like Steve McLaren at Manchester United was a brilliant coach, and Carlos Queiroz come in, very different to Steve, but again a good coach. But my favourite coach I ever played under was MK Dons, John Gorman. He was assistant to Glenn Hoddle when he was the England manager, but he was my favourite coach purely because he was one of the best people I've ever met in my life. Like, so caring, always had time for you, always supportive, and without doubt, he was I think it was all, even with managers as well, it's more about the people that they are more so than their tactical nous and what they sort of said tactically. So John Gorman was my favourite coach and best coach that I ever played under.
Brilliant. Thank you for two very insightful answers, Chaddy. And thank you for joining us on this week's podcast. And I look forward to seeing everyone again next week.